I'm in San Francisco, so it is beautiful here finally. So now I'll admit I'm not a California native. Well, sort of. I was born down in your area, but I've grown up and lived most of my life in Wisconsin. So when they said that they were having a drought up here, I said, "Nuh-uh, it's rained for the last 3 months. I don't know what's going on." So, so it has. The rain has subsided significantly, and it's just gorgeous out up here as it is, I'm sure, down by you.
That's good. It rained here yesterday for a brief time. Oh,
Excited.
good. We have Mary and we have Brad from Pitzer. So I think we are all present. Alex, if we want to go ahead and get started and start recording.
All right, I will. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me here this afternoon. I know it's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. I'm sure everyone will try to keep things light and fun here today and go through kind of this implementation project. And I'm really personally excited to be able to work with all of you. I've heard so much. I have met a number of you, and I can tell that we are going to have a lot of fun working with the entire crew. So what I'd love to do today, I'll give a little bit of a background for everyone about me, just so you all kind of know who I am, what my role is here at Handshake. You have likely worked with a couple different members of Handshake, from David to possibly Jade to a couple others, and I serve a different purpose kind of here at Handshake. I am everyone's in the rooms your account manager. So I am your go-to person for really anything Handshake from now on. You'll still likely see a few emails here and there from David, but for the most part, I will be the best point of contact throughout your implementation and moving forward for everyone here across the entire system. So a little bit about me. So I come from a background in kind of recruitment and career services. So I used to work at a company called Direct Employers Association, which many of you may know. I also worked for 4 years in career services, working at Wabash College. So I've always had a passion for the space, really, really enjoyed being able to be a part of career services. And when Handshake came knocking on my door, I couldn't be more excited to be able to join them. So what I'd love to do here to kick things off is now I know there's quite a few individuals in the room right now, I'm sure. What I need to do is be able to kind of identify the different individuals and what institutions you all are associated with, just for my management, as well as so I can invite everyone to the proper tools and things like that. And Sarah, I'm not sure if we want to do this. If there's if we could possibly create some sort of list with everyone who might be the main point of contact who I can reach out to, that would be great. Maybe after the call this afternoon.
Great.
And I will begin sharing my screen here momentarily, talking a little bit about the implementation process. But before I do that, I just want to give you sort of a high-level overview of what we're going to be doing here. So with that, could we have just quickly everybody go around in the room and just introduce themselves, so I do know kind of briefly who I'm speaking with?
Sure. Why don't we start with Harvey Mudd?
Judy Fisher. I'm the director.
Paul Hardister, assistant director.
Hey, Paul.
Scripps College, Vicki Klausch, the executive director. Cindy Yan, employer engagement coordinator.
Angela Coffey, director at KGI.
Charlene Kyle, employer relations coordinator at CMC. Beth Saliba, associate director, employer relations at CMC.
Kathleen Ferris, associate dean Drucker.
Goldstein, Pitzer IT.
Pitzer College, Director of Career Services, Brad Tharp. And Teresa Flores Roberts is our assistant director. She could not be here today, but will be involved.
Michael Valdez, Mona Enterprise Project Manager.
And Mary Raymond, Pomona College.
That's it.
Perfect, perfect. Well, it is wonderful to meet all of you, and like I said before, extremely excited to be able to work with everybody, and so happy to have the entire system working with us. So, what I will begin sharing here now is kind of just a high-level overview of what we're about to do in terms of kicking off this implementation process, which is oftentimes seen as kind of a looming process, but I will promise you that I will walk with you every step of the way and be able to have this process really be easy and be able to have you up and running live with students as soon as you'd like. So, overall, and I'm going to kind of just break down what the implementation process looks like. It's just really kind of these 7 easy steps, and in fact, it's 6 easy steps because we get to check off this first one, host the kickoff meeting, off the list. So we're already on our way to being able to have this checked off. So there's just a few items that we're going to be doing and that we're going to be kind of utilizing in order to migrate some of the data from your past systems over to your to Handshake. And we'll be able to host all the different instances. So each school will have their own kind of platform to utilize. Within Handshake, as well as being able to work together in terms of things like jobs and any other events or things like that that you're going to be working together on and sharing across the system. So basically, it kind of breaks down into everything you need to do on the employer side to get ready for them, and then everything you need to do to just get ready for Handshake. So first off, as you've been kind of told, we're not going to lose any employers, and you're going to gain a lot of new employers here moving forward. So we're just going to kind of get a download of all of your contacts and upload them to each individual system. Also, by the way, nobody has to worry about taking notes or kind of writing any of this down. I will send all of this information after this call. So after we've kind of gotten the employers into the system, what the next step, and kind of these steps kind of go hand in hand, is looking at configuring the system, which is why I'll be working with most of the points of contact who might be the system administrators of the tool in order to develop some of those best practices for how to configure the system and take a look specifically at what you were doing in the past so we can make it a really easy transition here in this future system. The last 4 steps are really pretty easy. Complete the training, and in terms of staff training, I'll walk through how that operates here within Handshake. And then it's as easy as a couple emails, sending communication to your employers, automatically inviting them to the system, and sending your communication to students, which is really just notifying them that you've made the switch. So those are the 7 steps, and those are basically what it takes to implement Handshake. Now, that's a really high level, and that's a really high level overview of what we are going to be doing. I can now kind of turn it over and be a little more nitty gritty, kind of go over what we are going to be doing here over the next few weeks to see how we might be able to develop a plan to hit the dates that you would like to hit. So with that, I'm going to bring open PowerPoint here quick. Can you all see the slides now?
Negative.
All right, hold. Let me know about now.
Yes.
Awesome. Perfect, perfect. So with this process and with this project, it will be a fairly easy project, and you'll be able to kind of just pull some of the information out of your current system, and be able to upload it right into Handshake. So kind of looking at the timeline and kind of looking at a high level overview of where things happen, we kind of looked at those 7 steps. And so we've already passed a lot of the legal review, IT sync, which we'll be able to do here momentarily. But the first kind of portion of the project is getting in that past data. And we'll be able to use our project management tool called Teamwork, a tool some of you may have used. Some of you might be a new tool, and I'll introduce it here momentarily. But we'll be able to import some of that old data, things like your events or anything that you want to keep track of from your past systems. Additionally, we'll go through training. And training is one of my favorite parts of the system, allowing you all to be able to walk through the training process on your own. So the training process, as I'll explain in a little bit, is it's focused on being personalized, where we provide videos and lessons, kind of online lessons that walk each of your different users through the system. So I heard a couple employer relations individuals. We have lessons that are specifically focused on employer relations. We also have lessons focused on counseling and reporting. So being able to spend your own time fitting training into your schedule without having to coordinate too many schedules. Like I said before, the next after training and the importing of data is completed, a lot of times we'll invite the employers. And just as a just out of curiosity, is there an expected date? Are all of you going to try to coordinate in terms of when you are launching to employers, or are we going to be able to break these dates up, or how would you want to handle that situation?
Yeah, this is Vicky from Scripps. I'm known for just speaking my gut reaction. But I would imagine since we have a lot of the same employers and share them, that it would make sense for us to have a launch that is relatively in sync with one another.
Agreed. I think we could make it in a week span easy. Um, And just so you know, I've worked with quite a few universities to launch them, and I have a lot of different strategies and things that I've picked up along the way in order to kind of help make this a really easy process for everybody. After the employer invite is done, the configuration of the system is done. Student invite is honestly the easiest part of the entire process. You basically send out a couple mass emails and let your students know that they can find and capture their handshake profile. So taking a look, I heard there were a couple IT folks in the room. I am assuming that we are going to want to set up single sign-on. And the first question that I have, and I apologize if this is old news, but are you all in Common certified?
Yeah, well, Pomona is.
I think we are, as we're all members during it too.
Okay, then,
So
yeah,
I think the SSO that Jeremy runs for us all counts.
right.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, I don't know that we'd use in common though.
I'm wondering about Harvey Mental. I don't think we use it finally.
Wait,
I
I
don't-
think you use CAS at least.
Yes.
You use CAS at least, and that may be, I don't know that we can set up one for all the schools. We may have to set it up individually.
Oh, I would expect that you each would have to set it up individually.
One thing, you know what I mean, because there's different instances of it.
Oh, yeah.
There's different instances of handshake,
Oh,
right? We each have our own.
Yes, sorry. So every school would have their own. You would all just be able to work together for some of the key things like the sharing of positions or things like that are kind of core functions of the consortium.
we actually have a common implementation of CAD. Okay, so from my point of view, we should all point that same common implementation of CAD at every handshake instance. And it should be, you should say, only allow Pittsburgh to Pittsburgh instance and Pomona to Pomona instance. So you could filter that on your end because you're going to get our personalized ID every time, and you'll know what college we come from. You with me?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And we could work through that. What I will do is send over our single sign-on sheet that kind of asks some of the credentials about your single sign-on, and what we'll be able to do. Those questions will prime all of these conversations, so that if we have any questions on how we're going to integrate that with each of the different institutions, we'll be able to do so. So that's kind of the first thing that we typically take care of. Now, that being said, it is not at all one of the critical items. It's just easiest often to check off the list because of, like you said, you're part of InCommon, so you'll be able to easily integrate this into Handshake. And will there be an IT individual for the system as a whole, or is there a specific IT individual at each institution that I'd be able to work with?
The answer is yes.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll work with Sarah and everybody else in order to find the correct individual to get some of who might know each individual school's credentials to fill out those forms.
So will we give them a list of those two?
So you would need each school's IT contact.
That would be ideal. So their point of contact. My main point of contact with an email address is really what I need, and then the IT point of contact that might deal with things like single sign-on or the registrar, depending on kind of how that functions.
A registrar.
So
Explain that one.
yeah, so the student, anyone who I might be able to work with in order to get the students loaded into Handshake. So that might be the registrar, that might be that same IT person. It's dependent on your specific setup.
Especially when you upload the new students, the registrar has that information first sometimes.
That's what I'm guessing.
IT and or registrar contact. So folks that are in the room, I'm creating a form right now. And so when you get it, the IT/registrar point of contact, you know that context. Otherwise, that doesn't. Mike,
Yeah,
IT should manage that.
I don't think you wanna get the registrar
okay, so just IT?
in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Just, what is,
So previously, we uploaded students. Like Christina would request from the registrar's office the list, and then.
Right, we don't want the registrar to be doing it.
Right.
no.
That's what I'm saying.
No, our
They haven't signed up for any of this, so I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so we can completely avoid them, and that's really easy. And you can just get a list of students to be able to upload.
They didn't sign up for that stuff.
Yeah.
No, we don't want to put anything on their plate. No, we can sidestep all of this. Not a problem.
Okay, sounds good.
Um, well, perfect. So,
To know, Alex, contact info, primary, IT, anything else?
no, that'll be great for right now.
Okay, great.
So once we get those individuals, what I will do is I'll send out the forms for you to fill out and be able to kind of point me, and I'll send it out with those point of contacts copied so that everyone will be able to kind of get this process started. So we're going to be working on that as kind of like some of the first steps. Additionally, for all of the individuals from IT in the room, and again, all of this will be in my follow-up email, but all of our technical documentation, anytime you want to see the way any data is formatted or anything about any CSV uploads, everything can be found at documentation.joinhandshake. So the other conversations that we will want to have is thinking about, and we are not in no way, shape, or form making these decisions today, but just things to think about, is some of the data that we would like to import. So talking about the employer contact information, which we definitely want to import, all of your staff and student accounts, any of the rooms and buildings that you might use. Any sort of labels or tags might be a familiar term for everyone that students might use right now would be a good idea to bring over. Any notes that you have on the students, appointments, and if you'd like, historical events are absolutely easy to bring over. And once we go ahead, sorry.
Okay, do we all have to be in agreement about which data we import?
Not at all. And in fact, for all of this, and this is kind of a unique situation, for all of these items, every institution can work independently of one another. So you could potentially bring over your labels, or you don't have to, or maybe you want to scrap all previous events, and other schools don't want to. Easy to do, and all of this I will be able to manage and be able to import whatever your specific institution wants to import.
I would recommend that all of you know what data elements you are, moving into Handshake and which elements that you're not. So that if there's a school that says, well, why aren't you, entering, transferring Social Security numbers? Oh, we don't do that. It's a secure item, it's PII, we wouldn't touch that. Oh, I didn't think about that. So it could just be helpful.
To think out loud with each other about what our goals, okay,
So
good point.
just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of that student data, absolutely. This is more focused on the data coming out of your old system as opposed to which student data fields you would like to bring over.
Alex, this is Judy Fisher from Harvey Mudd. We have a lot of historical events on our career fair that I want to bring over.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is how to get those reports out of our current vendor to give you. Have you had much luck with other schools, big universities that have major career fairs, getting all that data out?
Yes. So, I mean, pulling the reports is going to be the best way that I have been told. So we can't personally go into those systems, but we have worked with a couple schools, and you're on Simplicity right now, correct?
Right.
Correct. Okay. So we have worked with other schools, like I work for Princeton, for example, who has been able to pull out some of that information to be able to host.
Okay. They were able to get everything out.
They were able to get, for career fairs, they were able to kind of pull the reports and be able to pull all that information out. Appointment notes caused them. Now they had, I think, a few more appointments. That was where they were having difficulties getting all of it out. But in terms of kind of student numbers, I think with each of your individual schools, you'd have a significant lower count of student notes, so it should be pretty easy.
What do you mean by student notes? Do you mean the counseling notes?
Yes, things like that.
Okay. And what about events like workshops and those? Were those easy to export and import into your system?
Very easy to import into our system in terms of exporting. Yes, again, I would guess pulling a report of all of that information and determining what fields you would like to import are things like that you would want to do. And in terms of bringing over this existing data, I'd be happy to kind of set up some time where we can kind of walk through all the different pieces for things that you want to be able to bring over and kind of walk through and explain how we might be able to do that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So this is at a high level what we want to be able to do. And again, once we get the employer, kind of the first thing that we usually import are the employer contacts. Actually, no, the first thing that we import are any staff accounts to get you all into the system. Then we'd be able to import any of that employer contact info so we can, as a group, be able to pull in all that information and send out the employer invites such that when the students come back in the fall, you'll be able to easily have all of those positions live in the system. As a part of that employer contact upload, what we will also be doing for you all is going through and determining which employer contacts are no longer valid. So we'd be able to kind of test each email address, which would allow you to kind of delete any of the ones where that recruiter isn't at that institution anymore, so that when you kind of start on Handshake, you have a full pocketbook of employer contacts, which are all, you can guarantee are all currently live.
Yeah, I'm thinking out loud. Let's say there's a company, ABC company, and
Mhm.
Harvey Mudd has one contact, Pomona has a different contact, and CMC has a different contact. How is that going to work? Because if we're all our own separate units, I would want just the Harvey Mudd contact, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And you would only have the Harvey Mudd contact. So when I say pull in all of your employer information, each school will pull in their separate contacts. So you will only have your contacts.
Yeah, but some of them were 4 or 5 of us are affiliated with that contact.
Sure. So you would still be able, so 4 or 5 of you, so in your current system, I would guess that 4 or 5 of you have all of that information. You would each be able to still have that contact pulled in, so all of you would be able to access them for only the schools who have had record of those individuals.
But some situations will have our own distinct contacts, but in some other situations, we all share the same contacts.
Like Gallup.
Gotcha. So is that data, is the individual contact repeated multiple times across each of your different institutions, or is it truly just like one individual and it's tagged as being shared by all of you?
Yeah, it's basically tagged. It's affiliated with multiple institutions.
Gotcha. So we'd be able to kind of take a look at that contact list and be able to share out and build a contact list where each of the schools, where you have your own contacts, as well as having all of the employer contacts that you share on your personal list, so you still have access to all of them.
Alex, what's your gauge on how far back are schools going in history of pulling data contacts? I know for like Slack, we did 3 years.
That's the typical recommendation.
Okay, 3.
And then within that 3 years, if you find it's dirty data, you eliminate it.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, perfect. So that's kind of the data import process, and kind of that's the beginning phase of the implementation process. Taking a look at training. And training is we're really excited about. We have been using this training program for a little while now and been able to have seen some really good results, mainly due to the flexibility that training offers today. So we offer a kind of flipped classroom, if you may, training process. So what we'll be able to do is for each of the different schools, we'll set up a talent LMS program. And don't worry about remembering the name, but it is essentially a program that walks each of you through how to use Handshake. So there are, like I said before, those different lessons. So there's the administrator lesson, and there's the employer relations lesson that show you exactly how to use those specific tools. And the nice part about it is you have support, and you have our support team answering questions as you submit them. But you also have the flexibility of just having a video to walk through the process. So no longer does everyone have to coordinate schedules. You don't have to block off an entire afternoon. Everyone has the ability to take like 1 hour chunks and complete a lesson. So we do recommend, there are I think there's 6 total lessons. So there are a few basic lessons that go over the basics of Handshake. And I promise you'll be able to pass them really easy. There's a little quiz at the end, just to kind of review what we have. You get a gold star if you get them all right. But you will be able to kind of walk through all of those different lessons. And then once that training is complete, it's a good opportunity to begin configuring the system. Any questions on how training operates? Perfect. So then, like we said, kind of inviting employers, once we get those contacts uploaded, it's an extremely easy process where we would have the ability to go in and utilize our mass email tool to invite those employers. So they would be invited to connect to your institution automatically, and you just have to kind of decide on the date and say, I want to invite all my contacts, and they'd be automatically connected to your institution. And then after that, the only thing left is inviting your students. And in terms of inviting your students, when does your, are you all on, go ahead, sorry.
Wait, so in terms of inviting employers?
Yes.
How do you imagine that works as we think about those shared contacts? Because I think we would all agree that we don't want our contacts to have 5 or 7 emails coming from us, inviting them to the system. But we need to make sure that they are linked to our individual systems.
Absolutely. So what we would be able to do in thinking about this, being able to automatically connect versus necessarily spam with email to all of your existing contacts, and then connecting them to the greater consortium as a whole. So they would be allowed to kind of post to the entire system or just one individual one individual school. So what I'll do is we'll find a way that we can kind of just identify those contacts and make those automatic connections.
Can you give a tangible example? I don't know, so going back to Judy's ABC company,
Mm-hmm.
so we've got, yeah, can you just make, I'm not sure that I understood.
Yeah.
So of all of our, 5 of us share ABC company, and now it's time for us to notify that specific employer. How would that, in your mind, work out?
So in my mind, what we're going to be able to do, and let me know how this might work best. Would it be better for ABC company that is shared amongst all of you? Would it be better that they are notified that you have all joined the system and there's an automatic connection to all of your separate instances of Handshake? Or would it be better that they are identified that each of you individually have joined the system and they connect with you individually?
That's a good question.
And we absolutely don't have to have answers for this right now, but that's just kind of my thought process and the questioning that I've been going through prior to this call.
The tricky thing is that some of the employers are just like the 2, some of the 5, some of the 4, so.
Yeah, I think
Or ask them to brainstorm how they can separate it out. Maybe they can invite all the contacts that are individual to Harvey Mudd. And then when they come to the contacts that are multiple, that can have one email just for those multiple ones.
like we did with the
That's
GMAC
right.
survey.
Yeah, I think that's what they're gonna need to do. They're gonna need to send 2 different versions. One to the ones that are identified just with our individual schools, and then one that is multi.
Yeah. And I think most of the ones that are multiple schools are one-stop. And are we gonna invite one-stop employers into our new system?
Yeah, why not? They're,
But I don't think all of them are one stop.
Not all of them,
but they're also, the ones that are recent ones
the
too.
biggest majority. And do they necessarily have to be affiliated with all the schools? If they're one-stop employers?
I would imagine for this, and again, I'm open to this, but for the sake of logistics and trying to get this move done by July 1, that it's either they're affiliated with the consortium as a whole, or they have an individual contact. So we just need to discuss whether or not people feel comfortable with that. I don't think it's realistic for us to go through the 5,000 contacts and identify what the algorithm is for that particular set of employees, right? That just doesn't make sense to me. So if it's just CMC and scripts for ABC company, then we decide, you know, it's all consortium or.
But I'm thinking more the ones that are affiliated with all the schools.
Right. But then we just invite them to the consortium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they get one email with individual, like, with the, like, you've been identified as someone who's registered at multiple schools, please, here's the registration link below.
Yeah.
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 Right, so
I feel like that's like a mail merge
stuff,
right?
What if it just was one email from the consortium saying, you know, we move forward as a system, we do have individual
Share
or whatever.
Yeah.
Please register at school, please,
And then have a link by each school. Yeah.
Well, the one, not to bog this down too much, but the one thing that, since I've been on both ends of the consortium, the undergrad and the graduate side, when I was on the graduate side, you know, there were some employers, they only wanted contact with the undergrad.
Yeah, right. True.
So that's one common thing that I would run into, so.
To be continued.
And I can work back with my contacts and kind of figure out the best suggested manner to doing this to offer some ideas. Perfect. So
Okay, Alex, hold on.
Yep.
Paul just wanted to reiterate Beth's point. Paul from Harvey Mudd and then Beth from CNC.
Yeah, did you hear what Beth said? That makes a lot of sense.
I did not.
Okay.
No worries. So basically, we were saying, if, we send out one email from the consortium saying we're migrating databases, please see the links below to your individual schools and register with the schools that you recruit out most often.
Gotcha. Yeah, that could work. That could definitely work. So notifying all of your employers that you all have kind of moved over, and just to reach out and kind of get in contact with your specific contacts in order to get connected.
Then would we give them one list? We give them one list then of all the contacts?
All the things like that.
Yeah.
Like pull one report of all the contacts in Simplicity?
Well, that would be an easy report for some.
So Alex, if we do an email that has the employer choose which or all of the links below, is that here's a link to register with Pomona, here's a link to register with MUD, or is it please register me for these 5 or these 7 schools?
Yeah. So think here. So, and to be frank, we haven't invited like this recently in the past, so I'm not as familiar with this portion of the invites. I will have to circle back with the development team and see how we might be able to get these links to work. In terms of your employers and being automatically connected, what might be easiest, they might be sent a notification email that they have been connected automatically to each individual school, because if they recruited with you in the past, logic says you should be able to, or I would hope that they're recruiting with you kind of in the future. So I think that what we will do is see how we might be able to include some of those separate links in order to connect with you automatically.
So, Alex, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So, currently, for the employer side, you have connect with schools, and for the employer, they can scroll and see the logo of each of the schools and request to connect. Could we potentially make a site just with the 7 colleges and direct the employers to that site, and they just request to connect with one of the institutions?
I will have to circle back on whether we want to do that or not. I know that for a lot of functions, we want to be able to keep you all separate in order to kind of make it easier to operate as separate entities, but also working very much so together. So I will circle back with Ryan, who kind of works a lot with you, Sarah, and kind of figure out how we might be able to best invite all of those employers like that.
That seems like a good solution and a nice portal for them, the employers, to connect with the 7 Cs, and then they could choose to connect with multiple or just one.
Sure.
That way.
Yeah, I'll absolutely follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
They have to register multiple times.
One profile.
And just so you know, registering, it's one profile across all of Handshake, and registering for to be approved at a school is literally just clicking a checkbox. So there's no real registration process, and it's not it's not a difficult thing to connect with the individual school. So it's not nearly as difficult as maybe in some other systems that they might have used. We want to make sure that when you create your first profile on Handshake, you don't have to do anything else in order to actually connect with schools, except for clicking and selecting which schools you'd like to be a part of. So it's not nearly as kind of a labor-intensive process. So the other things that I kind of just wanted to quickly talk about after the employer invite, which I will follow up on, is the student invite, which is the most fun part, I think, being able to kind of market the system out to students. We have some pre-made invitation emails that you can send out to your students. And I heard the July 1st date thrown around. Did I hear that correct? Is when you would like to be working with students on the system?
Sure, yes, that's the dream.
Again, Judy Fisher from Harvey Med. We have an issue that our employers want to start registering for the career fair in June.
Okay, not a problem. So what we will be able to do, when do they want to start registering? Or when do you open registration?
But we're holding them off to June.
Oh, okay. So we would absolutely be able to hit that date. So you can have the system live to employers, but not live to students really easily. And that's what we recommend. So after we get that invite going, you would have the employers would be aware that you are on Handshake. Students would not necessarily be aware. And then we can invite students later.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
What date might work well for you, June?
Well, hopefully before Elizabeth leaves, June 1st. That was the other thing I was gonna bring up about the training. How soon can we, I saw the training, but I thought they were flying down for training. Is that another thing I heard, Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah, so we want to. So the training works best for like kind of covering the initial questions. What we found is it's really just good to get a good background on Handshake, and then we'll be able to be there in order to answer some of those more complex workflow questions. In terms of training, what I can do is get everyone set up. Like right after this call, I'll work tonight to get everybody. After I get the points of contact emails, I can get everyone set up on training, so you can get your individuals going right away.
Because the person that works on the career fairs for me, her last day of work is the first week in June.
Okay.
I wanted her to get up to speed quickly.
Absolutely, and we have some videos specifically surrounding career fairs, and it won't be a tough battle in order to kind of get that set up.
Okay, thanks.
And that's Harvey Mudd, Alex.
Gotcha. Perfect. So outside of that, so once we can get all of that training completed and be able to have your system up and ready for that June registration date. After that, like I said, is the inviting of students. And we have some pre-made materials for you all, things like on our Pinterest page that allow you to market to the students, kind of letting them know that they have a Handshake profile. So the other thing that I want to share with you is our project management tool. So for all of the points of contact, you will be able to, let's see here, you will be able to share out this tool that we have. One second, I'm just trying to pull it up here.
Alex, your PowerPoint isn't on. Do you think your PowerPoint's on the stairs? Okay.
Perfect. So this is our project management tool where we would be able to host all the different communication and be able to add everyone. So specifically with a number of these items, we're going to be able to check a lot of these off on the list. And I bring you to this page because for our points of contact, this is going to be the best way to go back and forth and communicate about the implementation process. So in a little more detail, we have laid out all the different things that it takes in order to get Handshake up and running. And you have the ability to do things like take this little checkbox. You can actually check off these boxes. I'm going to uncheck this because we haven't done this yet. But you can also do things like comment back and forth on different items over here on this comment box. Or, for example, set timelines if you want to set reminders or set dates that you'd like to have things done. And I'll be sure to be active in here setting some of these dates so that we can help hit these marks.
So is there one of these per school?
Yes.
And that's for each of us?
Yep.
Really?
Once we get the point of contact, then he'll send
Oh,
that.
then he'll send it to us. Oh, great.
Yep. So you'll be able to manage the entire process right here. And we found, so like, for example, I'm working with Emory to implement, and it's been a really successful tool in order to communicate back and forth about that implementation process and just have just a list of the things that you want to do. And you can kind of take a look at the things that are likely due this week and be able to kind of work through those chunks. So that's the tool. That's kind of the process. In terms of next steps, what the best thing that we can do here is once I get the point of contact email, I will be able to start sending out invitations to your teamwork profiles. And then after that, what I'm going to be doing is looking at being able to have staff profiles set up in each of your individual accounts of Handshake. And I will go back and figure out what we're going to do for your employer contact invites.
Alex, can you run through those next steps one more time?
Absolutely. So step one what we want to do is get the point of contact, all of the points of contact that I can work with throughout this implementation. So I think Sarah was compiling both the points of contact on your side as well as on the IT side. Once we have that completed, I will be inviting all of the individuals to to teamwork. And once we have that done, the list kind of explains what the next steps are. So everyone will be able to kind of walk through this process, and you'll be able to dive in a little bit deeper onto kind of the next steps, the best next steps to implementing Handshake. And also, kind of, so for the key dates, what I have for being able to hit a June 1st employer invite date, it would likely be good to have your employer contacts invited probably by the middle of May. How does that sound for everybody?
Middle of May? I think that sounds good.
Sounds stressful but doable.
Oh, we can do it. It's not going to be bad. I promise. If you can get me the contacts, I can work with you to get them uploaded and everything.
We'll do it.
Perfect. And so just kind of for communications and coordination's sake, the best way to get in contact with me is via email or phone call. And if it has anything to do with the implementation process, any of these tasks, it's much easier to communicate right here in this tool. So you can actually send messages back and forth between the different teams, so we can kind of keep track and coordinate all the conversations that are going on specifically about this implementation. And what I'll do is I'll also create some milestones, and I'll actually create the first milestone right here, and say employer invite, and I'm going to set this for the middle of May. And I'll be responsible for this. So so we have some of these milestones that we like to hit that we can kind of take a look at, and then I'll also be able to set some of those dates in for each individual school. So moving forward, what we can do is I'll be reaching out via email to everyone, kind of sending over all of my contact information. And moving forward, you'll be seeing quite a few emails from me. And if there's any questions, kind of on next steps, or if it isn't clear of what you need to do, I am here for you every step of the way. Please let me know what I can do.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a slightly detailed question, but not a big one. So we're going to upload the account names of everybody who logs on. Okay, we're going to be using the single sign-on method.
Okay.
So we get a CSV file, and I've got, I don't know, students and staff and so on. What happens if somebody logs on that doesn't actually have an account? They just get a normal error message, I presume?
So they'd be prompted to create an account. So, for example, your alumni, if you are, let's say you'd like to import 3 years of alumni, 10 years of alumni, and someone from, I don't know, 20 years back logs onto the system and tries to log in, they will be prompted to create an account, and each individual career office will have the opportunity to go through and accept or decline of adding that student to their database.
So is that something internally that we'll have to decide if we want to bring our alumni? Normally, we keep 1 year out alumni in the system. I think that's what the consortium had agreed upon years ago.
That's just for on-campus recruitment.
Oh.
Alumni have access forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, so we typically recommend like 5 years is what we've seen works pretty well for a lot of the different schools, and it's pretty easy to manage. So being able to kind of bring over that many years of alumni, whatever is kind of like readily available, and the ones that you see that are active in the system are the ones that we recommend you bring over.
So we can decide that individually at our campuses.
Correct.
How many years of alumni we want to bring over.
Correct.
Anything else?
I have a question. This is Kathleen from Drucker. Is there a maximum number of accounts each individual school staff account can have?
Nope.
We demand that be changed.
I think that's too good, so you shouldn't.
I mean, just out of curiosity, like there isn't a limit, but how many are you thinking of building?
We're not gonna hit the limit.
No, there's no limit. There's no limit to the number of staff accounts you can create.
Thank you.
We'd prefer every student doesn't have one, but that's up to you if you'd like to make that decision.
I just know with our current system, we only could have like 6.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Chat. Got your chat feature question.
There was a limit on the revenue.
Oh, yeah.
CMC may have a question.
I'm ready for a possible question.
Potential question. Wait for it.
It has a possible answer too.
Is it like regarding data?
Credit card payments.
Yeah.
Are we gonna be, if we don't use
Stripe.
Are we able to record payments in the system and send out receipts?
Yes. So you'll be able to manually record payments directly through Handshake, and that's what a couple other schools have been doing this past semester who didn't want to use Stripe. And so you'll be able to manually record those payments for your record keeping.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Judy has one.
In the same vein, do the majority of your schools use Stripe, and has there been any issues with that system?
Yes, the majority of our schools do use Stripe, and there haven't been issues. To be honest, it's a kind of it's a very, very popular tool that has really a very few issues. Last year, the only difficulty was honestly working with some of the different departments to get it certified. But now that we have new documentation in order to certify Stripe, most of our schools find it really easy to be able to be granted to make that decision.
Okay, so I'm assuming that documentation is the link they sent me earlier?
Yes.
I'm going to try to tell my business office on it. Okay.
Yes, yes. And it's PCI compliant is the term that you're probably going to hear. And that link will share that we are in fact, or Stripe is in fact PCI compliant.
Any other questions, folks? Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Alex. I'll be in touch with the contact information if everybody can send that to me ASAP.
Perfect.
Awesome.
I'm very excited to work with everybody and happy to be able to work with the entire system.
Awesome. Great. And we will see you next week.
Yes.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.